Today is our day. I'm talking about pressmen, and the day's been commemorated in Ethiopia, in the nation's capital, Addis Ababa. A lot of journalists and government officials and other people have gathered there to discuss media for democracy in relation to how to deal with the challenges of the times, disinformation, fake news, and all that we are dealing with. So I will be bringing you more details on this particular event. Well, Press Freedom Day, and this is from our partners, the BBC. How many journalists died last year? Usually a lot of media houses will want to look back on events of the previous year, even as we commemorate Press Freedom Day. At least 95 journalists were killed last year during the course of their work, and this is according to the International Federation of Journalists. The number of deaths is higher than in 2017, but not as high as peaks recorded in previous years when conflicts in Iraq and Syria were raging. The highest number of media deaths recorded was 155 in 2006. These figures include anyone working in some capacity or form of media organization. So you have the graph here indicating journalist and media worker deaths, and it's from 92 to 2008, and you can see there clearly that the highest bar is 2006. But between 2016, 2017 and 2018, you see that in 2017 there was a decline, but in 2018 it's gone up again. And the source of this graph you're seeing is the International Federation of Journalists. One killing in 2018 which attracted global attention was that of prominent Saudi journalist Jamal Khashoggi. Now, he was murdered last October after going to the Saudi Consulate General in Turkey. It sparked a diplomatic crisis between the two countries and a chorus of international condemnation. Now, let's show you which parts of the world are the most dangerous for journalists. Afghanistan remains one of the most deadly countries for journalists, with 16 deaths last year. So as you can see in that graph, Afghanistan has the darkest blue color, which shows that it is the worst. We have the US, we have Mexico. US is number 5. 5 people died. Mexico, 11 people. In Yemen, 8 journalists and media workers. In India, 7 of them. In Syria, we've got 8. Yeah, so giving you some details there of that graph, and the fact that the BBC's own reporter Ahmed Shah was killed in one of a series of attacks in Afghanistan in the Khost province. And there are other links there to journalists who have died in the course of their work. Now, away from deaths, let's talk about journalists who have been imprisoned for their work globally, and this is sourced from the Committee to Protect Journalists of the BBC, and you have there, you see the numbers rising at about 240 range there, 2018. In 2017, the number was higher than it is for 2018. So let me just bring you countries with the highest numbers of imprisoned journalists in 2018. Turkey, 68, China, 47, Egypt, 25, Saudi Arabia and Eritrea had 16 each. Now, in commemorating World Press Freedom Day, an event to provide a platform for multiple actors to exchange ideas on current issues, threats and achievements concerning freedom of the press is currently underway in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia. The overall theme of this year's event is the role of media in elections and democracy. About 100 national events around the world are expected to complement the main celebration. The attendance of the UNESCO Director General Audrey Azoulay, as well as of high-level government representatives, is expected. Participants will also include representatives of civil society, media organizations, professional associations, academia, and the judiciary. Let's take you to the Ethiopian capital, Addis Ababa, where hundreds of journalists have gathered to mark the day. JoyNews' Richard Kotunyago is there and joins us via the phone. Hello, Richard.
Hi, Benny.
Well, we understand that the celebrations for you at Addis Ababa started actually on the 1st of May. Many people around the world are now joining you to celebrate the day proper. But describe to us the mood at today's event in Addis Ababa.
Well, it's been a fantastic organization of this year's World Press Freedom Day. It actually started on Wednesday, where there were some drama, some theater, some concerts that were organized in the Ethiopian capital for the journalists that were arriving and those that had arrived already. And yesterday actually was the opening, and so it opened with a plenary session in the plenary hall named after Nelson Mandela. I can tell you that a lot of journalists, hundreds of them, are here. There's been exhibitions of how journalists are being targeted, how they. So some of these exhibitions chronicles how some of the countries, have fared in terms of the protection of journalists. And so we had the UK Secretary of State Jeremy Hunt addressing the media, and the talk is about the responsible journalism, and then how the states, the various states are expected to protect journalists. And he announced that the UK government is going to provide some scholarship for journalists, 7 scholarship. And so this year alone, 11 journalists from Africa are going to benefit. They are going to be supplied or going to be housed by the media houses in the BBC, and then other media institutions in that place. But let's talk about the theme alone. It focuses on, and then journalism. They have spoken about disinformation, fake news that is being trumpeted by social media, and they want media persons to cross-check their facts very well. And as much as they are calling for the protection of journalists, media persons ought to also cross-check them. So it is a double-edged discussion that is being done here in the Ethiopian capital.
It's interesting you mention the problem that media around the world have to deal with. That's fake news and disinformation. Have any ideas come up on how to deal with this globally?
Yes, some of the discussants here have been telling us what they are doing, especially in their country. For Kenya alone, there is this civil society organization that has come out. They say that they are publishing the names of people that spread some of these news, and then they are naming and shaming them, and they believe that it is one of the ways to curtail the practice. Other organizations that are also here represented have also announced some interventions, that like organizing training sessions for media persons across the globe, not only in Africa, because they see that the problem is not only an African problem, but the problem also persists elsewhere, and journalists would have to overcome them, because social media has now become a vibrant tool. Everyone is a journalist. People sit in the comfort of their rooms, and then they put anything out there, and then this is fed by the traditional media or the main media, and it creates some kind of problems. And in order to overcome them, then that is why the UK Secretary of State announced the intervention by the UK government. They feel that these misinformation, fake news, and disinformation actually cut a slur on people and have been impoverishing people, and so we need to have some breaks at a point. And they refer to the electioneering that are organized around the globe. So the reaction of government to the work of journalists and the impact of inaccurate news report by journalists are the issues that have dominated the celebration this year, Benny.
Now, we've had media practitioners or experts urging media owners to prioritize the safety of Ghanaian journalists. You've been speaking to many of the people who have attended these discussions ahead of today's event at Addis Ababa, and I'm sure that the security and welfare of journalists has come up.
Yes, and that's true. That's true. Yesterday we spoke at length with some participants who have come here. It is not all of them that are journalists. Others are lovers of journalism. Some of them who have passion for journalism, they wish they were journalists, but because of the targeting, the maiming, and the killing of journalists, they are afraid. I met one Ethiopian educationist who says that yes, her love for journalism is very huge, but because he does not want to die early or to be maimed so that the family will suffer, she would better stay her corner and not come to practice journalism. There are also other people that are calling on state institutions to be responsible because things that are covered can only be put out there by journalists, and they ought to be supported rather than being targeted and being damaged. I spoke with Ghana's Minister of Information, Kojo Oponkoma, yesterday and asked him what exactly they are doing to support the work of journalists in terms of their safety. And he says that they are liaising with the security agencies in Ghana, and they have actually started, and very soon a rollout of that plan would be done so that journalists can go about their work freely and as expected by anyone. But he wants journalists also to be responsible in what they do so that they do not end up damaging the reputation people have built over the years, putting out false and inaccurate information out there. And so that is what Ghana's Information Minister, Kojo Oponkoma, who is also participating in this year's forum, has been telling me.
Finally, tell us, Richard, what to expect today at Addis Ababa. That's the headquarters of the AU, where the World Press Freedom Day is being celebrated today.
Currently, plenary sessions are ongoing in the Nelson Mandela Plenary Hall, where there are groups that have been given different topics. They are speaking to journalists, addressing them on the essence of being a journalist and what is expected of them as journalists, the interventions that ought to come to them or that ought to be put in place. And so they've been addressing directly. I'm told that Ghana's former president, John Dramani Mahama, is there. I'm yet to see him, but all of these people are going to be part of the plan today to discuss the way forward for journalists, especially the safety of journalists, so that journalists can go about their work freely and without fear that they will be targeted or they will be killed should they put out something that is true.
Thank you very much, Richard Kojanyako, there joining us from Addis Ababa, Ethiopia's capital, where the world has converged to celebrate media practitioners and journalists. Well, UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres has been speaking on what his expectations are as we mark Press Freedom Day.
A free press is essential for peace, justice, sustainable development, and human rights. No democracy is complete without access to transparent and reliable information. It is the cornerstone for building fair and impartial institutions, holding leaders accountable, and speaking truth to power. And this is especially true during election seasons, the focus of this year's World Press Freedom Day. Facts, not falsehoods, should guide people as they choose their representatives. Yet, while technology has transformed the ways in which we receive and share information, sometimes it is used to mislead public opinion or to fuel violence and hatred. Civic space has been shrinking worldwide at an alarming rate. And with anti-media rhetoric on the rise, so too are violence and harassment against journalists, including women. I'm deeply troubled by the growing number of attacks and the culture of impunity. According to UNESCO, almost 100 journalists were killed in 2018. Hundreds are imprisoned. And when media workers are targeted, societies as a whole pay a price. On World Press Freedom Day, I call on all to defend the rights of journalists whose efforts help us to build a better world for all. Thank you.
You heard that the UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres sharing his thoughts on World Press Freedom Day. The theme, media for democracy, journalism and elections in times of disinformation. Really important topic, especially for us here in Ghana who are looking forward to the 2020 elections. Hopefully in the coming days there will be a lot more discussions on how to treat disinformation and fake news even as we look forward to the 2020 elections.